All right, here's the last 4 problems on the review. These deal with factoring trinomials. So I always think of this as FOIL backwards. Okay, now I always want to start by looking for a GCF. So if I look at 23, x squared minus 8x plus 12, there's not any number I can pull out of all 3 of those. They don't all have x's, so I don't have a GCF. So I can go straight to my FOIL backwards, where I'm going to get my 2 sets of parentheses, and I know I'm going to start with x times x. Now to figure out the numbers, this is where we used our factor x. So the plus 12 goes here, the negative 8 goes here. So remember, this is a product, multiply, and this is a sum. So I want numbers that multiply to make 12 and add in some way to make 8. So if I do 2 times 6, that would multiply to get 12. But to get a sum of negative 8, they would have to both be negative. Excuse me. So negative 2 plus negative 6 would give me negative 8. Then those give me the numbers that go in my parentheses. It doesn't matter what order you put them in. Right? You can do the minus 6 first if you like that. Now if you want to check it, you FOIL. So I'm going to do a check on this one. So if we FOILed, we do x times x to get x squared. The outside would be negative 6 times x. The inside would be negative 2 times x. And then negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12. Put your middle terms together and you get x squared minus 8x plus 12. So that's what you started with, so that one checks. All right, so let's try 24. I don't see any numbers I can take out, so I'm going to go straight to my FOIL backwards. So that means I can start with x times x. I want numbers that multiply to be a negative 21 and add in some way to be a negative 4. All right, so for 21, I'm thinking, now remember, you can always list your factors out to the side. So I'm thinking 3 and 7. This one's trickier because we want a negative 4 for our sum. We want a negative 21 for our product. So if we make the bigger number negative, 3 times negative 7 gives me the negative 21. If I add 3 plus negative 7, that gives me the negative 4. All right, so these are the 2 numbers that I want. So a plus 3 and a minus 7. And again, you can check that with FOIL if you want. Now for 25, notice there's an x cubed, but I also notice that every term has an x. So this one has a GCF. First thing we have to do is factor out the x. So x cubed divided by x would be x squared plus 7 times x minus 18. So I'm just taking one x out of each of those. Now that I'm done, now I'm ready to do my FOIL backwards. I do have to keep that x. It's got to come down. And I'm going to set up my parentheses, do x times x to get my x squared. So I want a negative 18 for my product and a positive 7 for my sum. So numbers that multiply to make 18, 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. 2 and 9 looks promising. So to get a positive 7, I would need a plus 9 and a minus 2, and that would also give me a product of negative 18. So this tells me the numbers that go in my parentheses. So a positive, I'm sorry, I just did that wrong, a positive 9 and a negative 2. So you can put those in either order you want, but the plus has to go on the 9 and the minus has to go on the 2. All right, so for our last one, I don't have an extra x, but notice all of my numbers are divisible by 5. So I want to factor out the 5. That'll give me 5 times x squared plus 5x plus 4. Now the 5 has to come down. It is still part of my answer. And now I'm going to do my FOIL backwards. All right, so x times x will give me x squared. To get my numbers, I need a positive 4 for my product and a positive 5 for my sum. For 4, I can do 1 times 4 or 2 times 2 for my product. 1 and 4 would add to make 5, and they would need to both be positive. All right, so that gives me my numbers. I get a plus 1 and a plus 4. All right, so make sure you leave the 5 on the front of your answer. That is part of your factored answer.